Hey guys, just before we get into this episode of Grassroots Chaser, I'd like to thank another one of my partners, Raw Precision Lubricants. Raw Precision Lubricants is a 100% Australian-owned and made lubricants company. They specialise in high-performance, agriculture, earth-moving and automotive lubricants. Check out their Facebook, Instagram and their website to see your local supplier. And remember guys, they're driven by perfection. So enjoy this episode of Grassroots Chaser. On this episode of Grassroots Chaser, I'm speaking with someone who's been involved in drag racing since the age of 3. He's now the president of Sunstrip in Mildura. So I welcome Kingsley Kuchel. Is that it?
That's enough. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's all good. It's all good.
You told me that you started racing at the age of 3 and you started helping parents around the Sunstrip. So I'm guessing there's a bit of family history in your drag racing. Did your parents ever race?
They did. My racing, the involvement in our club. So I was 3 when our club was actually formed in 1986. I wasn't involved that much when I was 3. It was probably another 3 years later when I was about 6 that I was sort of old enough to be able to at least tend working bees and things like that. Back in those days, we ran on a closed road, so we didn't have a purpose drag strip like we do now. So it was a lot different back then, and rules back in the late 80s and early 90s were very lenient. There were a few times like we were short-staffed and I was put in charge of using a fire extinguisher that was still actually taller than I was at that time. You wouldn't be allowed to do that nowadays. But my dad raced. He had a street car. It was a hot rod. It was a 1948 Ford Anglia van, and it had a supercharged 350 Chev with an 871 supercharger on it. It was a very uncontrollable car. It nearly went over a few times and had a lot of hairy moments. And my mum would race every now and then. She had another hot rod herself, and she did a few lady events and bits and pieces between us and back then with Swan Hill drag track when it was dirt, and she did quite well actually. But outside that, family affair was uncle, my mum's brother, was president of our club from I think 91, 92 until about 99, 2000. He was a big reason why we've got a current proper purpose-built drag strip. But yeah, my mum and dad were a very big influence, especially in the 90s, on getting our strip funding. Especially they did Lamington drives for years and raised nearly $250,000 to go towards laying our first drag strip. So it's definitely family orientated for me. Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your family has done racing, and your whole family was involved in drag racing. Like your mum was successful, as you said, and your dad also did racing. But what age did you start racing?
I didn't start racing until my first race meeting was 16. I wanted to race juniors really bad, but at that point, as much as mum and dad raced on and off, they were really busy. They had their own business and were working 7 days a week. And unfortunately, buying blueprints to build a junior dragster was as close as I got. But once I hit 16, the rules were still a bit lenient back then, where I had a learner's permit, but that allowed me to race. So I jumped in my uncle's hot rod, a 1928 A model Victoria, and I raced probably for 2 or 3 years with that before I got my own license, got my Ps, and I had a V8 Statesman, and I raced that a lot. And then 2010, I borrowed a race vehicle off a good friend, an Austin A40 Ute. It was a super sedan car, and I raced that for a full 12 months and did a lot of race meetings and that and from there I purchased my front engine dragster from America early 2011, and it arrived in Australia August 2011, and then I got my license, and I've raced it at every major track in Australia except Willowbank in Queensland is the only one I haven't done. I've been fifth in the Australian Championship once. I've been sixth in modified in the Australian Championship twice. Very old school, no electronics. Just drive because I love it type of deal.
Yeah. So hopefully, it was a bit unfortunate. We'll get to this later. That you haven't been able to go to Willowbank. I've heard it's a really great track. So you just told me about your car then. Have you had many difficult cars, and which one was your favourite?
No, not really difficult. The dragster's been my biggest handful. It's either it'll go straight and it'll go hard, or it'll throw me curveballs and it'll go left, right, or straight up in the air off the start line. So you've always had to be prepared that something was going to go wrong. If I got through the start and the launch, the rest of the run was generally really good. The dragster was definitely my favourite. It was more me in a sense. It was where I could combine my love of hot rodding and history of hot rodding and drag racing in one. The dragster, when we imported it, didn't look anything like it does now. It was a standard front engine dragster. It was just a bare frame and an engine. And me and my father, we built the one piece body. A lot of people call it the wings. It was based on a 59 Chev, the wing portion going past the back. So there's not many dragsters in Australia that have got a full tonneau cover in a sense. There's the Blakes in Sydney have got one. But yeah, there's not many that look like mine. Well, to be honest, there's only one that looks like mine in Australia. And again, it was what I wanted to do with the car to make it my own. So it was definitely my love.
Yeah, for sure. And so your family is out. They used to run Sunset Strip, but you're now the president. So what categories do you run around there?
So in my time, I've been on and off on committees and everything. So my first time I really stepped up to become involved with running the club was mid-2000s. Not at the level I am now. Once I was president, which that was 2015, I believe I became president. And to be honest, mid-2000s, we'd have the odd Top Fuel car running. Darren Morgan, when he was running Top Fuel Dragster, again, Mildura is his hometown. He came out a couple of Easters and raced the Top Fuel Dragster. We had the first 8th Mile Slam Fest event. That was 2010. And then we did another one in 2011. We had the likes of John Zappia, Victor Bray, Peter Kapiris, like all the crew back then. Our first one in 2010 had 16 door slammers at it. We've had in 2014, we had Graham Cowan's Nitro Funny Car series run. We've had jet cars run. We've had Top Fuel motorbikes. We've had pro stock cars, stock motorbikes. We've run exhibition top alcohol races. So effectively, we've run every category you could that there is in the rule book in a sense. We just haven't done them all at one meeting. But definitely since 2015, every year we've run one, if not two, sportsman Australian Championship rounds. So that's everything from Group 4 to Group 2. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. And considering that you have a top fueler whose home is Mildura and he comes down and races sometimes, that's really cool. So when did you stop racing yourself?
I stopped racing mid-2019. Unfortunately, I had an incident on a track, and no one's fault, really. It was just an unfortunate thing where, just hit something in the track, and because of my car being so rigid, when I hit this item in the track. It sent a shockwave up my back and broke some vertebrae, and it just went downhill from there. So the car's sitting in the shed collecting dust. My kids, the three, I've got two boys and a girl, they all run juniors. The plan is that one of them, at least in the next few years, is going to probably jump into it once they finish in juniors. So it will hit the track again. I am also considering there's a couple of friends that I know could handle driving it. So it might hit the track in the next couple of years before my kids do anyway. Instead, it's all in one piece and it's ready to go in a sense. So, but yeah, I personally, because of my injury, I'll never be able to get in it, unfortunately, which does hurt a bit. I wasn't finished, but if I get clearance down the track, I might be able to build something. It's not quite me, I suppose, but it could build something that suits me and suits my injury. So
yeah, I know it's hard for you because an incident like that, like you were going maybe 150 mile an hour plus, and then stuff like that can really hurt, put you out of racing. So it's good to know though that your kids are racing and you have big dreams for them, and I'm probably sure they'll continue on what you wanted to finish. Is there a chance maybe that your kids will race internationally or nationally? What are you hoping for them?
Not sure yet, to be honest. Don't know international would be a thing, but my eldest, I don't know if he'll go on to race lots in the future. Really, my middle son, I really expect him to probably carry forward a lot. He's got his best friend, another local. They're the same age. They run juniors together. I really think if anything's probably going to happen for any of my kids in drag racing, it'll be my middle boy Mason will definitely push towards that. We'll see. My daughter's got she's not long got her license, but she's really keen. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility. It'll just see. I said we've also got a very old school mini Mustang funny car that I'd love to. We're starting to restore that. Hopefully, my wife will race once. So if we can finish that by the time the kids sort of get out of juniors, I'll be able to even go with her and she can do some racing as well. So yeah, it's definitely possibilities.
Now that you're the president of the Sunset Drag Strip at Mildura, have you enjoyed taking on the role rather than racing?
Ooh, nothing beats the buzz of running down the drag strip. A really bad day in the car with things going wrong was still generally a better day doing anything else. Being president's a unique role, I suppose, and again, we've got a lot of history in our club and we've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. It's definitely been, a bit of a new era for us, probably the last 10 years, again, with all the door slammers and fuel cars and running Australian rounds and things that we never thought when we built our drag strip were possible. The key to running the track, I suppose, is being able to make it financially successful. It is really hard. It's really hard to get sponsors, even more now with COVID, it's even harder. So it is really challenging to make it so the club keeps moving forward. And every year, like even if it's just something small, we can upgrade something at the track, always show the races that we're trying to move forward and we're trying to keep things going. I do really enjoy when a meeting goes right. I've got a really good team. Again, we all gel as one. We've all got the same direction. We all really like the races when they come to our track. I get criticised in a good way of trying too hard, but the races when they come to our track are they're not just a number. They're important. Doesn't matter what category you're racing. So we strive to try and make the racer feel like they're always at home, no matter how far they've travelled, and make the events run as smooth as possible. So, it always feels good for the racer and the crew to be there. So again, you're not racing. It keeps me going. It keeps me involved. But yeah, running the club it is an awesome thing. And it's something that I dreamed, I suppose, I was going to do from a young kid, but never really thought I would be good enough to do. But a lot of old members have said I've definitely been worthy of running the club, and that's been great. But nothing beats running a car down the track itself. It is an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, and like you were saying before, when you were little, you used to help out with the holding a fire extinguisher. So I'm guessing you need volunteers still, and do you have many at the moment?
Never enough. Sometimes, like, working bees are really hard. You really only get, and it's always been the pattern with the club. Committees come in and people leave, and new people sort of come in, and you only ever have sort of, a core six to 8 people that really help pull everything together. On race day, we are lucky enough for us that we've got we've got the local crew, and then we've got a crew that travel from Adelaide and Bendigo and all that come and help and give us enough volunteers. I'd never say that we've got enough volunteers, but we get by with what we get. And the ones that we do get, most of them want to be there, and that's a big thing on its own. We're not forcing people to do it. So when they are there, they enjoy themselves a bit better and they do the role a lot better. And it's the same with our emergency crew as well. Like, our ambos want to be at the race meeting. They're a part of, like, our little family, same as the fire crew. So it's never an effort in a sense. So it's nothing ever sort of is too hard. And when things go wrong, we all gel and we recover from accidents quicker and things like that. So I'm very lucky with the volunteers we get, but it would be awesome to have always more. But again, it's something that we've struggled with ever since the club formed, is getting volunteers.
Yeah, and do you know when the next event will be? Because I'm actually from Bendigo myself, so maybe I could come down and watch one day.
Not really sure. We'd love to run as soon as we can, in a sense, but we were meant to run a couple of weeks ago, but this latest lockdown, again, the Friday night, we were meant to run on the Saturday, and it's really hard at the moment because, again, we didn't run, so we refunded all the races. That's all cool, but we'd spent the week prepping the track. We'd put down glue. We'd spent money on fuel. We had to still pay for the emergency service crews because we've got to give them so much notice and all that. So for me, we're not really going to look at trying to run anything until we know, I suppose, this settled down a little bit. We really need the cases in Melbourne to drop. So I know that if we do put on something, we can get at least more of a broad racer range from the whole of Victoria. But we were meant to have drag challenge on October 20. So again, if cases drop and Street Machine can run drag challenge, that would be awesome. It's always a good race meeting to have. I know it's during the week, but following that, we had a couple of minor race meetings at the end of October and at the end of November that we had planned. So even if we can get through those few race meetings, would be really good. We canned our Australian round. That was meant to be next weekend, was our Australian Championship round, and the Junior Nationals was meant to be the weekend after. But because of all the lockdowns and everything, a lot of competitors can't get across from Perth. We can't get them from Sydney, all that. So COVID's really knocked all that. So it's quite difficult to say when we're going to run next, but I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah. What are the prices for someone like me to come and watch, and my family?
Spectator amounts we don't charge a lot for. The dearest spectator charge is our Easter event, and that's an adult's $25 for that, and a child between 12 and 16, I think, is $5. Easter is a very unique event. It's the event we get our biggest crowd at because everyone's in Mildura for motorsport that weekend. We run what's called the supercharged shootout, where we get between 16 to 24 supercharged outlaws. And, so we've got 170, 180 cars at Easter, and it's an awesome event. Drag Challenge, Street Machine run the gates on that, and I think it's $20 a head. But outside that, all our racer mates and our Australian champ rounds and stuff, we don't get a huge spectator base too. So most of those events, we don't charge more than $5 for an adult to come in, and most kids are normally free. So we don't charge exorbitant amounts to come and watch.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So maybe one day me and the family would come down and watch some drag racing, because I know my dad, massive fan of drag racing. But what would you say to someone who's starting out drag racing and they're not quite sure what to do yet?
I've always said you can only strive to race what you can afford. Like, it's all good to have goals and have ambitions, but when you start out, you need to start out more lower and experience the fun. Again, most big races will tell you the faster you go, the more money you spend, the more frustrations you have, and sometimes the less fun you'll have. So really, like why I started racing in street and super street, and you just start meeting people, and you find out that the most fun you have isn't really on the track. It's the people that you end up associating with and spending time with in the pits, and you see from race to race. But when you are racing, yes, have a goal you think is achievable, and stick to it for a while before you go too big. I had the goal with my dragster. I wanted to go 5.5 seconds, and I wanted it to be supercharged, and wanted it to look the way it does. I got it to look the way it did. I got it to run a 5.5 second pass. It's got an injected small block in it. The only thing I didn't get to do was run with a supercharger. So I got most of my goals done, but I never, even when I got 5.5 seconds, I didn't feel that I had to go faster. I just wanted to keep driving it. So yeah, definitely just pick an easy target goal and have fun.
Well, you did say to me tonight that you were a bit busy, so thanks so much for chatting to me tonight, Kingsley. It sounds like a great club of all the drag races that you have out there, and I hope to come and visit, and I wish all the luck to your competitors as well out there. If anyone has thought about going really fast down an 8th mile, check out their drag strip in 𝘠𝘠𝘠. It's really fast, and see how fast you can go. They've got a website which I'll drop a link to down below. And remember, guys, support your local events out in 𝘠𝘠𝘠. So thanks so much, Kingsley. Good luck to everyone racing this weekend, since we're sort of out of lockdown in whatever category you race in. And remember, drive fast and take chances.
No worries, mate. Thank you for having me.
It's all good.